We're going to stand for a pledge of allegiance and an invocation.
Dear Father, help us entrust our actions into your care. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a nice crowd here this morning. Good to see everyone. See, we have City Commissioner Eddie Becht in the audience today. We can see if I'm missing anybody else. It's always good to have the City of Fort Pierce with us. Good morning. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the April 9th, 2013 meeting, as well as the minutes from June the 4th, 2013?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We don't have any presentations or proclamations this morning. This time we're going to turn to our general public comment portion. Anyone wishing to address the board, please feel free to do so. You may come forward, provide your name and address on the microphone. That would be great. Good morning. Welcome.
Yeah, my name is John Moeller. I live in Torino Parkway area, Port St. Lucie. And I've been a resident of Florida since 1967. I've been in St. Lucie County since 1974, 25 years in Fort Pierce, and 14 years in Port St. Lucie. And I read the public comments and articles, and last fall went to one of the Planning Commission meetings in Port St. Lucie. And that's what got me interested in looking into the 7-county 50-year plan. And then I went to the one later on in the springtime to the second meeting, and I went to that plan also. Within about the last month, I have personally probably asked close to 100 people that I know through playing tennis, clubs, organizations, if they have ever heard of the 7-county 50-year plan. I found no one that's ever heard of this plan or knows anything about it. I thought, well, maybe it's just a regional problem. A friend of mine that I grew up with in southern Maryland, who's lived in Fort Lauderdale since 1977, I called and asked him. He's never heard of this plan either. What I'm saying is that we're going to have a regional planning commission planning for millions of people who have no idea what's being planned for them. I haven't found anybody yet who knows anything about it, but when they do ask me, what's this plan about? And I'll say, well, through higher taxes, they want to build an inner city community. If you or any of us here own a home on private property, your standard building lot, 80 by 120, your 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, that's considered unsustainable. And then I mentioned to them they also want only public transportation. You can walk, you can ride a bicycle, or you can take public transportation. You will not have use of a personal vehicle. I don't need to go any further than that. I have not yet met one person who thinks this is a good idea. And what I'm saying is that we need more input from the public, and we need more transparency on what this plan is going to do to our community in the next 50 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Ma'am, were you next? Good morning.
My name is Betty Marsman. I live in the city of Port St. Lucie, 349 Southwest Todd Avenue. I retired here from the state of North Carolina. I have not come to give a speech, but I just wanted to familiarize you with my ability as a senior retired, 72 years of age. And I didn't know where I was coming here in Florida because my son lived in Fort Lauderdale, which is a large city, and that was not for me at my age. I made 15 or 14 trips here and got out of my automobile and went into the different businesses and talked to some of the homeowners about this city. And it was such a pretty city when I came in. And I said, well, I better rent for a while to see if I really like it here. And I did. And I decided to buy a home. Unfortunately, yesterday morning, I had to hospitalize my little 5-pound Yorkie. I have already filed a complaint with the building code department because of encroachment of a vacant lot. For the past 4 years, I have been expending my funds to cut back what I am entitled to cut back of this encroachment onto my property. Anybody know anything about gardening? When you start cutting back, then the thing just flourishes and blooms. And I had 2 mango trees. You can't even see my mango trees. They're gone. My brush bottle tree is gone. My dog has been hospitalized. He's suffering with a severe case of allergy from the pepper tree. This vacant lot is loaded with them. It also houses, wildlife. And I can't enjoy my property, my yard, and neither can my dog. I have to pick him up and put him in a van and go somewhere where he can walk and relax. I'm stuck in my home. I've always been a worker for the seniors and the children all of my life. That's what I love to do best. I have no right to make a complaint about anything if I'm not willing to put forth any energy to alleviate the cities and the towns of any complaint that a resident may have. Believe me, I'm not going to go away until the issue of an ordinance is in place where people who are owning these vacant lots are made to clean up these lots and not at the expense of the cities or the towns. If they have the monies to continue to pay the taxes on it, then they ought to be able to maintain it. We as residents, if we have a little overgrowth in our front lawn, there's this great big sign sitting out there on your lawn saying if your grass isn't cut by such and such. That's understandable. What about these vacant lots that are causing problems, especially for me? We've had I can't tell you how many lightning strikes, and we're well into the hurricane tornado season, and there's nothing but dead trees, dead brush, and you are setting me up for an accident. And I don't like that at all. And I know that the cities and towns are strapped for money problems. But I, being a senior, I've always been involved in my community wherever I lived all of my life. There are many seniors like myself who still have a good mind. We may be old, and I'm not going to allow anybody to lay me down and curl up in a ball and lose my mind and can't remember my name or where I live or who I am. That's what happens when we don't allow our seniors who are retired, who have good minds, who would like to become involved and help the cities and towns do whatever is necessary without having to grow our budget monies we don't have. I'm willing to give you my time. I have been employed in both federal, state, and city governments all of my life. I know how they operate. I know how they work. Some don't. You even have a saying, if you can't lick them, join them. I'm not going to do either, because I'm going to continue to fight for what's right for any community that I live in, for our seniors especially, because I'm one, and for our children. My little Yorkie is laying in a hospital this morning, sick because he can't get an ordinance passed to have these owners take care of these vacant lots around it. There's thousands of them, I've been told. Well, I'm willing to give them my time, volunteer. And I'm sure there are many other seniors in the county and the city who would like to utilize the few hours they may have to volunteer to keep our communities safe. And I'm here to state that I am pleased with the response that I did get from the building code department. They ain't got but a few more days to get it working. They're going to see the familiar face in City Hall, in wherever. I'm not going to go away because it's an endangerment.
Thank you, Ms. Marsman.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. The address that you mentioned, I'm sorry, that's the city of Port St. Lucie, Todd?
Sir, it's in
Okay.
between, I live in between Aroso and Bayshore Boulevard.
Okay.
And I'm just
Did you happen to approach the city of Port St. Lucie?
I've done everything. I've done talked
Okay.
to the code enforcement people. They've contacted the owner.
I just want just to make you aware that the county doesn't have any say over the code enforcement actions of the city of Port St. Lucie. So I wanted to make sure you had actually approached them. I know.
But I'm worried about the ordinance.
Right, I guess that would again be the city of Port St. Lucie. So Joel Dramis is the code enforcement officer there for the city.
Right.
And you're
And
able to work with Joel.
So I'm interested in the whole thing. I mean, I'm willing to volunteer my time. It doesn't matter, as long as we're moving forward
Perfect.
and not
Okay.
looking back.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Good morning, yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Good morning, Mr. Gotts.
My name is Mark Gotts, 154 Northwest Magnolia Lakes Boulevard. I dropped one of these brochures on each of your desks. I hope you'll take the time to take a look at it and get more involved with this 750 plan and understand it and learn. Actually, the 750 plan, 7 counties in 50 years, a regional plan for all of us in the 7 counties, should probably now be called the 650 plan, since Indian River County has withdrawn from the plan, as well as Vero Beach and other cities in Indian River County. I would also like to take this opportunity to invite you to learn more about 750 and the other side of the subject. The American Coalition for Property Rights is having a Stop 750 Summit tomorrow and Thursday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Palm Beach County Convention Center in Palm Beach. We're in Suite 1B. We have speakers and films on 750 and sustainability and regionalization. We hope that the public will come, and we hope that anybody in government will come and see and hear the other side of the story of 750. And by the way, this is free to the public. There's no charge. What is the object of 750? Well, according to Andres Duani, the major planner for the 750 plan, in his presentation at the May 17th Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, is regionalization. We can't compete in a global economy without regionalizing ourselves. And what does regionalization do for us? Well, it eliminates decisions actually by cities and counties. It blurs the lines. When you look at the regionalization map that is utilized, you'll see that all counties, boundaries, and areas are just melded into one. These decisions will now be made by smaller groups of 3 or 4 people that will affect millions of us in the 7-county region. Hopefully it'll be the 6-county region, and I'd like to see St. Lucie County get out of it to make it a 5-county region. This small amount of people making decisions for millions is familiar. We have it in different countries around the world. I mean, just think of Russia, China, and North Korea, and how well small groups' decisions that affect millions of people work. The other objective, according to Mr. Duani, is we've got to give up our cars. Cars are causing global warming, greenhouse gases. We need to move into central urbanized areas where we have mass transit available to us, live in high-rise stack and pack housing. This is sustainable in the vision of Mr. Duani. But what is unsustainable? Well, let's look at a few items. Unsustainable is basically our single-family homes with our individual air conditioning units and irrigated lawns. Golf courses, once again, due to irrigation and fertilization, they are considered unsustainable, as is agricultural land. Once again, similar problems. Grazing of livestock is also known as unsustainable. Learn more about this. Join us at the Palm Beach County Convention Center tomorrow and Thursday. The best thing that the citizens and businesses of this county can do is educate themselves on sustainability, green. By the way, this is free to anyone who comes to this conference tomorrow. I want you to know that no governmental funds have been used in this event. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Gotts. Anyone else wishing to address the board this morning, please feel free to do so. Seeing no movement, we will close our general public comment portion. We'll turn to the consent agenda. Just for notation purposes, there was an add-on that came in, and it is item 9B9 under the County Attorney's Office. It's a resolution approving a facilities use agreement with project response for the building located at 408 Browns Court. So that was a facilities use agreement that did come in. There are no other changes that I have on the consent agenda. Any items that commissioners wish to have pulled this morning for a separate vote or separate discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull warrants list 36 for separate vote, at which time I'll be abstaining.
Okay, we have a pulled item. Is there a motion to approve warrants list 36 as a separate vote? Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion on the warrants list? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Any other items that commissioners wish to pull for separate discussion or vote? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion. Move approval.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. With that, we will turn to our public hearings. This is item 8. With that, we'll begin with County Attorney's Office. This is Resolution 13-098, creation of SR Properties MSTU. We will turn to Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item really has some history behind it. It relates to Bluefield Utilities, LLC, and their attempt to get a Public Service Commission certificate and approval. The board will recall that we initially objected to that, but at some point we did reach a settlement through the efforts of both parties. Part of the settlement involved the creation of a municipal service taxing unit, which would be used only in the event that the utility system on some properties north of State Road 70 would be, they would build a utility system, and then we would have the option to purchase that. This would be the funding mechanism that would be used. There would be no county funds involved. This is, again, a negotiated settlement. We believe it's a good potential financing mechanism for the utility and the property owner, and also for the county. With that in mind, we've drafted a proposed resolution that would create the unit. It's a State Road 70s Properties MSTU. In the resolution, there's specific language on the last page that indicates in Article 2 in the last paragraph that the unit will not levy or assess any taxes until the Bluefield Utilities has provided its option notice to the county, which we call the Water and Sewer District, and the district has exercised its option acceptance. So what we're doing is putting this in place. If this proceeds in a way where the utility is constructed and the county determines to exercise its option, it's a funding mechanism that could be utilized to fund the purchase of this. We believe this is in the best interest of the county. We also think that it's in the best interest of the property owner and the utility. Staff recommends approval.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Any questions for staff at this time? This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the board, please feel free to do so at this time. Seeing no movement, we'll return to the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask Mr. McIntyre, this utility we talk about, that would be regulated by the PSC, correct? The Public Service Commission, and that it is not indicated to be a competition for the county's utility. Is that accurate?
That's correct. The certificate was issued. It's regulated by the Public Service Commission. It only applies to the property that's owned by Evans. If we did buy that utility, though, it would become a county utility or a district utility, would not be subject to PSC regulation. But if it proceeded, it would be regulated. The certificate has been issued for both Bluefield and actually for Groveland. So those would be regulated by the Public Service Commission.
And I don't expect it to come out of the ground anytime soon. However, always want to make sure that the ratepayers, whoever they may be in the future, would be protected, whether by the PSC, Public Service Commission, or the county in general. So thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll turn to the board. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, we turn to item B. This is through the Office of Management and Budget. We have Resolution 2013-109. This is amendment to the fiscal year 2012-2013 budget. Good morning, Jennifer.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. This agenda item is to amend the fiscal year 2013 budget. The county's financial statements have been completed and staff has calculated the fund balance in all of the various funds. This amendment will amend the fiscal year 2013 budget to reflect the actual beginning fund balances, to revise some revenue estimates, and establish transfers between funds. This public hearing was advertised on Friday, June 14th. The original adopted budget was just under $507 million. Since the beginning of the year, there have been amendments bringing that to nearly $522 million, and this amendment will increase it by another $25.7 million, bringing the total to $547,428,446.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? This is a public hearing. At this time, we'll turn to the public. Anyone wishing to address the board at this time, please feel free to do so. Seeing no movement, we will close the general public comment portion of this hearing and turn to the board. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion, but I'd just like to add just a comment that this is not an increase that this board took upon the budget. It was basically one that is more of a book from a bookkeeping standpoint of trying to line everything back up together again since the auditors were in, but also the difference in the funds that come through and have to be transferred over.
Correct.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, we'll turn to item C, the Planning and Development Services. This is Ordinance 2013-34. This is an ordinance for large-scale future land use map amendment to residential estate. With that, we will turn to staff. Good morning.
Good morning. Britton Wilson, Senior Planner for the record, presenting items number 7C1 and 7C2, which is the adoption hearing for a county-initiated large-scale future land use map amendment and a concurrent rezoning for portions of 5 privately owned contiguous parcels totaling 14 acres. The large-scale map amendment is proposing a change to residential estate, or RE, and the concurrent amendment to the official zoning atlas is proposing a change to agricultural residential at 1 dwelling unit per acre, or AR1. And the purpose of the proposed amendments is to correct an apparent Scrivener's error that occurred back in 1990 that erroneously changed the zoning from AR1. So we are now proposing to return the parcels back to their original zoning designation of AR1. This is the second and final adoption hearing on these two items. The first transmittal hearing, you may recall, took place back on April 2nd, where you approved the transmittal to the State Department of Economic Opportunity, where they provided a letter of no comment. The future land use map amendment is a legislative public hearing, and the rezoning is quasi-judicial, and no information has changed on either of these two items since the transmittal hearing back on April 2nd, but I am prepared to present a recap of the information if the board wishes.
Commissioners?
Okay with it.
Okay, I think we're okay.
So the public hearing needs to be opened separately for both items, and the first one is for the ordinance amending the future land use map to residential estate.
This time, we'll open up the general public comment portion for this item. Anyone wishing to address the board, please feel free to do so. Seeing no movement, we'll close the general public comment and return to staff. Any wrap up on that, Britton?
Nope.
Turn to the board.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of staff recommendation.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion on the item? Commissioner Lewis?
I just wanted to make a mention so that there's no confusion in the future from the oral record. That is, I noticed the items as listed on the PowerPoint were incorrect. It's item 8, 8C1 and 8C2, and it was listed as 7, and there might be a confusion in the future if someone tried to look it up as such.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, we'll turn to the second item.
The second item is item 8C2, which is the recommendation to adopt the amending resolution to change the official zoning atlas to AR1, agricultural residential at 1 dwelling unit per acre.
Okay. This is a quasi-judicial item. This time, look to ask if any commissioners have anything to disclose at this time. Any disclosures to be made?
No, sir. With anybody?
No disclosures made. This time, we'll open up the general public comment portion. Anyone wishing to address the board, feel free to do so. A lively group this morning. Seeing no movement, we'll return to the board. Is there a recommendation?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. With that concludes our public hearings this morning. We will turn to item 9, our regular agenda. With that, we will turn back to our county attorney. You're getting all kinds of public talk time this morning, Mr. McIntyre. We're not letting you off at all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but I would ask Mr. Roberts to come forward since this is really his project and he deserves the credit for it. Mr. Chairman, just to go through the background a little bit, I think it's important to spend a little bit of time identifying how we got to this point. Back in April of last year, the board did grant permission to advertise an RFQ for firms that were interested in designing, permitting, financing, constructing, and operating a thermal conversion facility to process municipal solid waste in our county. We did have 6 firms respond. The top-ranked firm at that time was Covanta Energy Corporation, and the second-ranked firm was Jacoby Synergy Renewables. We did attempt to enter into negotiations with Covanta, even though they were done in good faith and they were very cordial. Covanta could not meet the rate requirements that we have, and the tipping fee would have resulted, that they proposed in I think the 4th year, would have resulted in a substantial increase for the residents. Because of that, we did terminate, mutually agree to terminate negotiations, and in December of last year, the board authorized staff to commence negotiations with Jacoby Synergy Renewables. Representatives of Jacoby Synergy Renewables are in the audience if the board has any questions, and they may wish to comment on this. In terms of our negotiations with Jacoby, and I'll just shorten that to Jacoby, they have proposed a letter of intent in which they have signed, which would allow the parties to move forward with to draft formal contracts or agreements that would finalize the agreement and the deal. The letter of intent as proposed would remain in effect until August 31st unless extended. We would agree, the county would agree to negotiate exclusively with Jacoby with regard to the county and the city of Port St. Lucie solid waste. As you know, the city of Fort Pierce entered into an agreement with, I guess they take their, with Waste Management, and it's processed in Okeechobee or some other waste management facility. Jacoby would design, permit, and finance, construct, own, operate, maintain, and control the project for a period of 20 years. The county would lease 8 to 10 acres at our landfill for 20 years at a rent of $1 per year. The county would pay $20 million to Jacoby after Jacoby demonstrates successful commercial operation of the project. Jacoby would then transfer ownership of the project to the county after 20 years of operation for $1. The county would provide Jacoby with all the municipal solid waste collected by the county or delivered to the county by the city of Port St. Lucie for a period of 20 years. We are working on an interlocal agreement with the city to accomplish that. We already have an existing interlocal, but we are proposing to And I think the city, as staff anyway, is receptive to the idea of extending that for this period. The project would accept up to 789 tons of municipal solid waste per day, or approximately 265,500 tons per year. If the county fails to deliver sufficient quantities of waste, Jacoby may obtain solid waste from other sources to make up the deficit. And from the county's perspective, this is important. The county will pay Jacoby a fee of $33 per ton, which will be fixed for 10 years, and then will be increased based on changes in the CPI. Mr. Chairman, on all these deals, it's important for the board to, these are business transactions, you've got to weigh the risks and advantages of the proposed project. Obviously, the proposal is that the county contribute $20 million to the project upon successful commercial operation. The RFQ does provide for county financing of the project, but the proposed county funding does significantly increase the county's risk exposure in the event the project fails after the county transfers the funds to JSR. On the other hand, the proposed rate stability for 10 years and the proposed transfer of the facility to the county for $1 after 20 years could provide the county with significant advantages in the future if the project is successfully implemented. A copy of a memorandum from Mr. Roberts setting out his analysis of the proposed project is attached. He is recommending approval. Mr. Chairman, based on the above, staff recommends that the board authorize the county administrator to sign the attached letter of intent with Jacoby Synergy Renewables.
Mr. Roberts, anything you'd like to add this morning?
Mr. Chairman, no, just I support this project and this deal. The flat rate of $33 per ton for the 10 years is what we've been trying to achieve for the past 8 years. And this is the first time we have it in writing that we can do that.
Flat rate for 10 years, no CPI.
Correct.
Anything that Jacoby would like to add this morning? If so, you just need to come to the microphone there, please. One of those just little oddities I know that we have, but since these are televised, provides for that help as well. Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Mark Ward. My business address is 8117 Preston Road, Dallas, Texas, 75225. On behalf of Jacoby Synergy Renewables, we're very excited about the opportunity to do this project. We think we've got a good technology that is financeable and will perform under the deal terms that we've laid out. And we look forward to working with St. Lucie as a partner in this project.
Thank you, Mark. I know that Ron has not worked diligently on this project at all, and as a result, there's just going to be so little effort produced. But I have to say kudos to your team. I know that you've been patiently watching for many years, working through a lot of aspects as it results to our future. Ron, appreciate your efforts and your staff as you've worked on this with Mr. McIntyre as well. I know in some respects this isn't quite the dream come true in terms of the plasma, but this is a true delight to you and to where you've worked in terms of your goals and dreams for this facility. Appreciate all those efforts. But at this time, thank you all very much for coming. Appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
Questions from commissioners for staff?
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I just want to walk through this with Mr. Roberts. As indicated in the presentation by Mr. McIntyre, there will be no increases in rates to the ratepayer during this proposal. Is that accurate?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, what the proposal is, they guarantee there's no rate increase to us. If we needed to increase our rates for some other reason other than that, we may have to, but my recommendation is for at least the next 7 years, we would not have an increase.
Okay. Thank you. And the environmental concerns that were raised in previous meetings, multiple meetings, and public discussions and public hearings on this issue will be maintained in that no emissions will be greater than that of the state requirements, but actually will exceed the state requirements and a better environmental concern. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, Commissioner Zadowski. The permit, excuse me, the permit limits set by the state will be adhered to by this project.
And also, it'll help to reduce and abate the emissions from the current landfill. Once we start removing those materials and they're not being placed in the landfill, that'll help to reduce the emissions unabated that actually end up in the atmosphere, such as mercury oxide and some of the other materials that are being released currently. Is that accurate?
Yeah, Commissioner Zadowski, I think one of the items you're speaking of is methyl mercury.
Methyl mercury, thank you.
That's correct.
Okay, because that's an important, and as we say, you're already working very hard to remove those before they ever have a chance to get there, so that's important, and thank you for that effort. And then also, in the final result, if and when this is completed, it'll increase our recyclables by a substantial amount, meeting or exceeding that which the state has requested at 75% recyclable in counties statewide. Is that accurate too?
Commissioner Zadowski, yes, that is. We would expect our recycling rate to approach 92 to 93% at that time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just have one, and it's not to get into any great detail. I just want to be on from a make sure it's spelled out correctly moving forward. In the presentation that was given, Mr. McIntyre, you had mentioned that the county's portion would become, I'm trying to find exactly where so I can say it correctly, would come due with successful commercial operations. Do we have that specified in detail? What quantifies that, and who's going to make that definition up?
Well, that would be further defined in the contract in the agreement, but it's been the subject of some discussion. But basically, we want to make sure the plant is operating and meets all the specifications before the county's money is put into play. And I believe Jacoby agrees with the basic concept of that. So we'll have to make sure that, obviously, this is really just an outline of a deal. It's really non-binding, but what it does, it provides both parties an outline, and it provides Jacoby with the comfort that they can now spend the time and effort that they need to finalize the deal. But it will have to be something that will be coming back in front of the board. We'll have specific language that address that, and it will have to meet your approval.
And that's the part I wanted to hear. And I mean, I know in conversations with Ron, I've heard that, but I think it needed to be spelled out more definite today. There's more yet to come in the specificity, if that's the right way of saying that. But it's still early. Thank you. This morning, that's the part that's going to be crucial, at least in my moving forward once those contracts come through. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chair, I want to ask Ron a question. Relative to the maintenance of the facility within those 20 years, is that maintenance commitment from the county, or will it be on behalf of Jacoby?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Johnson, it'll be in the contract, and I believe before they could finance the project, they would have to lay out the maintenance program, and it will have an annual inspection.
Excellent. All right.
Mr. Chairman, can I say one more thing? I want to thank the county administrator for her patience with me on this project, because a lot of people didn't believe it.
I just want to make one more final statement or confirmation that the future funding, although this will be a funding mechanism, the funding will come from the landfill directly, which is a enterprise fund, and not from resident taxes.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, I believe that to be correct. I'm not an attorney, but I know we did finance bonds in 1990 and 91, and they were limited to the enterprise fund.
Okay.
And I will confirm that the intention on the $20 million is to take that from the solid waste enterprise fund and not to use other county revenues.
Okay. In fact, I wouldn't be in favor if we were not going that direction. I think it was to be abundantly clear that this was to be directly from the solid waste fund, which is only to be used for those purposes. We're not able to. Although we may want to take funds from that to use for other purposes, we are unable to.
We actually raise a good point in that once this is up and running and revenues through the sale of energy produced, would that revenue then come back to the county and could possibly be used for administrative purposes at some point.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, I defer to the county attorney on that question.
That's a 20-year question.
I'll see you here in 20 years.
That's right. I think we should, that's one of the potential advantages for the county if this does work the way everybody hopes it does. Obviously, after 20 years, hopefully Jacoby will have made a good deal for themselves. And then at that point, the county will own the facility, and then those revenues, all those revenues and expenses will be coming towards the county, so we can deal with that at that time.
And speaking of expenses, the cost of creating or building another landfill would be substantial, in the $50–100 million range, I would suggest. And this will help us to, what we have as a landfill today, hopefully maintain it or reduce it at some point, but also reduce our exposure to having to create another landfill in the future. Is that accurate?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Zadowski, yes, that would be the goal. Right now, we have over 40 years' life at our facility, and with this project going into place, it'll extend that by at least 40 years. So in the next 4 generations, probably would not see another landfill sited.
Happy to see that.
Mr. Chairman?
Commissioner Lewis?
Just a comment. The scope of this has been mind-boggling over the years. I think maybe we should mention that there's as little discussion and as few questions as there have been today, simply because Mr. Roberts and Mr. McIntyre and, well, everyone over the last how many years? There's a memorandum in here. In June of 2004, county staff began. This has been around a long time. I, for one, am really thrilled to see it coming to the final stretch, at least. And as to the last comment about the landfill, I have said to Mr. Roberts on numerous occasions, and other folks as well, where in the world would you put another landfill at this point in time? I think we've got to move beyond that. Technology has moved this far. I'm sure it will go still further. You're looking another 80 years out. Well, that's beyond the scope of my mind to follow it. I certainly won't be here. But I just want to thank everybody, Mr. Roberts and Mr. McIntyre and everybody else, and the folks I see in the audience that have been with us throughout the trek. Thank you so much. I am really thrilled to see this happening.
Any other comments or questions from the Commission?
I just want to say this is a great project, and definitely look forward to making it happen. And talking about 80 years out, this is part of preparing the future for the next generation of leaders that's come along. So projects like this, it's an offer you can't refuse.
Although not the time, I have to put my piece in that I hope that if and when this is being built, that we look to local people to hire and to build.
Definitely. Because
we have a situation to the south of us, a $150 million project, and most of the people on that job are not from even the region. So I would hope that you would take it into consideration that local people in the Treasure Coast should be hired, and that we maintain and recycle those dollars here, because it's an investment that you're making, but one that the county will be making and the region will be making. Because I believe we'll have other partners in other counties providing us with their materials over time because of the improvements that will occur and the increase in recyclables that will occur for each of those counties, so that they can meet the state requirement going forward. So I hope that you'll please take that in consideration and hire local.
Very well said.
Thank you. Mark, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
This time, looking for action from the board.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. We will turn to item B, administration. We have our Assistant County Administrator with us this morning. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners.
Morning.
Bob Benkovsky, Assistant County Administrator. This item is a request for the board to consider and approve a contract for sale and purchase of a building located at 2950 Rosser Boulevard in the city of Port St. Lucie. It is a building that was a former police department substation for the city that was built in 2005 but is no longer in use. The building, if it was purchased, would be renovated to serve as a library facility to meet the needs of residents in the southwest portion of the county. The purchase would be funded exclusively from library impact fees in the Zone B and that are dedicated for library system expansion. Just a little bit of brief background. In April, the county had 2 appraisals done on the building, and it placed the value at $2.5 million and $2.1 million. On May 21st, the board authorized the county administrator to make an offer to the city of Port St. Lucie not to exceed $2.3 million. So following that, on May 24th, we did make a formal offer to the city of $2.3 million. And then on June 12th, we received a letter from an assistant city attorney in the city indicating that the city was favorable towards our offer and that the Port St. Lucie City Council would consider the contract for sale at its June 24th meeting. So with that, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, staff is recommending approval of the contract for sale and purchase.
Thank you, Mr. Benkovsky. Any questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to ask, Mr. Benkovsky, this is not funds coming out of the general fund, correct? These are simply impact fees that are collected when development occurs in the community, and they're specifically designated for, in this case, libraries. Is that accurate?
That is correct, Commissioner Zadowski. There's no general revenue involved with this purchase at all. It's strictly from the library impact fees that have accrued over time for this particular zone and are for this particular purpose of library system expansion.
And again, your background states 75,000 residents reside in the area since over the last 10 years since the last census. So I think that's important to understand from the public's point of view, because that's what we do. We collect these impact fees so that the services can be provided for the impacts of development. So I just wanted to make sure we were clear about that.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Action by the board.
Mr. Chairman, move approval staff recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion. Is there been motioned and seconded? Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried unanimously. With that, we will turn to our announcement portion of the meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to go back momentarily to our consent agenda. I was a bit distracted during that process, but I want to raise, for transparency purposes, the item about the Fenn Center facilities agreement and the waiver of fees, a portion of that. I am on the Exchange Club, have been since 2004. And the Exchange Club provides the chili cook-off that provides and has provided over $2.5 million in revenue for children's issues, from the prevention of child abuse and most recently that of the Boys and Girls Club, trying to have them to be sustainable. I do not have a personal gain here whatsoever. I am a member of the Exchange Club, but I wanted to be, for transparency purposes, very clear that I do not have any personal gain from this relationship, and I just want to clarify that with Mr. McIntyre so that we are on the record.
Commissioner, I think the conflict statutes really talk about personal financial gain or loss. You don't have any in this case. You're simply a member, as I understand it from what you told me a few minutes ago. You're not on the board of directors. You're not in an executive position where you're paid, and you're not even in the decision making. You're just simply a member. I think under those circumstances, you certainly could have voted.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. At this time, any other announcements? Quiet group today. all the way around. It's been a good morning. County offices will be closed on Thursday, July the 4th, to observe Independence Day. And beginning here in July, on July the 9th, Board of County Commissioners fiscal year 14 budget workshops will begin, and that'll be running through July the 11th. So if you'd like to come and be a part and watch to see how we develop that, we would love to have you participate. That, by the way, location-wise, I see that's not on here. Ms. Outlaw, I want to make sure I'm clear.
It will be in Conference Room 3.
Conference Room 3 here on the 3rd floor of the county building. Thank you. With that, no other motions, or no other announcements? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
We have a motion to adjourn.
We'll come to order, St. Lucie County Erosion Control District. First on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of May 21st.
Madam Chair, move approval.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to general public comment. Is there anyone from the public who'd like to address the Erosion Board? Seeing no one, we'll move on to today's consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second?
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
This time we'll come together as a mosquito control district. Anyone wishing to address the board, please do so at this time. Seeing no movement, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there a motion to adjourn? No. Why don't we make that a, all those in favor?
Aye.
The fun part about this is I have nothing in front of me because I'm trying to go paperless.
Pass it down.
And as a result of that, I've been having a good time even this morning trying to follow through with these items. And I'm getting better at that. So now that we've gone paperless. So.
Proud of you, sir.
I love that. All right. We had a motion. We have a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. With that, is there a motion to approve the warrants list from?
Move approval.
Second.
I'm actually going to go back here because we're just having
Consent.
we're having an entire colossal mess up of this agenda item. I want a motion to approve the consent agenda
There we
this
go.
time.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on that item? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Kelly,
Thank
you get
you.
all that?
Some kind of way she got it.
That's great.
Good job, Kelly.